Hey there, everybody. I'm Charles Perallo, and I'm here with the famous Jaleel White. How are you doing today?
What's up, Cat?
So first off, the last interview I did was actually with Mark Cuban, so this is definitely a good follow-up. Well, this is a good
Okay,
follow-up. I'm talking to the face of the 1990s right now.
I'm in good company, and I'm happy to be in the same movie as Mark right now. So I think that's cool.
Oh, he's in Hustle?
Yeah,
I didn't even know that. That's actually did
it's
you
a nice little walk by. He does in it. I think he
did you
made the
work?
cut.
Oh, did you work with him at all on set?
Yeah, I did. I was on set with him.
Okay, well that's just to get right into it. So you have a new movie coming out on Netflix with Hustle with Adam Sandler. So what was it like working on the movie? How was the process there? And can you tell us a little about your character?
Well, I mean, one, let me fix that. I'm in Adam Sandler's movie. Not the other way around. Adam was great though, man. I basically play an assistant coach with the 76ers. And Adam plays a scout who becomes very passionate about a particular find in Europe, and he's just trying to get the guy, fix the guy's life, and get him to the NBA. So it's a really realistic portrayal of what it is to find a complete nobody out of obscurity and get them to the NBA and all the bumps and bruises.
Well, when it comes to this movie, I actually have done one video on TikTok about this already, and it was actually how he originally planned on it being in China, but Netflix told him not to due to some
Yeah,
corporate reasons there.
I
What are
like
your
that. You,
thoughts
you
on
did
that?
your research. I respect that. I like that.
I did some homework beforehand. It's weird. I actually had that video come out a month ago, and then last week I found out we're interviewing you, and then it's this movie too. So it's like, wow, that's a coincidence right there.
Yeah, yeah. Nah, they originally wanted to do it in China, but like I said, there have been a lot of breakdowns with China and the NBA anyway, and so that made it politically impossible.
Okay, so now this is also, I believe, your second project with Netflix. You have a show with them as well right now.
Yeah, I did a show a while ago called The Big Show Show. I did about 3 episodes of that. Maybe four. I forget now. That was before pandemic. There's life before pandemic and life after pandemic. But it's funny because kids will come up to me like in the streets, and they'll be like 7 and 8 years old because that's the kids that really watch that show. And they'll be like, you're Terry," and then people around me be like, "Who?" Because they're so used to them saying other names like Stefan and whatnot. So I love that though. I love it when a completely new generation knows you for something different. So that's a family show on Netflix called The Big Show Show that I did.
Well, that was actually something I was going to ask you about. So obviously, for decades, you've had people come up to you and say Steve or Stefan. What's it like having people come up with, saying something different?
I mean, it's fun for me. I mean, even when somebody says Urkel now, I don't know if they're talking about the character, if they're talking about the legacy Purple Urkel. So I don't. It's fun for me, man. It's generational. I just want to do things that continue to take care of my daughter and show her a wide range of how you can touch people.
So, funny thing about Purple Urkel, you're actually one of three videos on TikTok that I've ever had permanently removed. Uh, on 420 last year, 2021, TikTok is very harsh on marijuana stuff. Anything with cannabis, they take down. So I did a video covering Purple Urkel and mentioned, other celebrities, other actors, doing the cannabis industry. It was taken down within 10 minutes. I appealed it. Only one of three videos I never got put back up.
I love it. I'm cutting edge. I bet you TikTok comes around. It's just a matter of time.
And well, maybe it's like I've got 100 million views talking about Johnny Depp's marriage, but mention marijuana once and it's all over.
It's kind of silly. I mean, that's one of the reasons why I'm passionate about it. I always tell people I didn't grow up smoking. I wasn't a stoner or anything like that. I was a 30-some-year-old guy. I went on a ski trip with some cats, and they had some they had some bomb, and I could still taste that steak. And it made me curious because for many years people had been sending me bootlegged images of myself in association with a strain, Purple Urkel, that's been around since about I think 2003 or 2004, if my research is correct, from the Humboldt area. And as legalization just kept being more and more obvious, and more of these pictures would pour into my phone with people just feeling like they had found something and asking me, "Are you making money off of this?" and blah 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 blah. I actually made some really really good friends in the cannabis industry that are talented, and we hatched the idea, and I just want to be mezcal to the tequila community, to use to metaphor it out for you. We just make great purples. That's what we make right now to start with.
So now, calling the product Purple Urkel, was there any legal issues you had to deal with the studio network on that?
Yeah, no, it's parody, and like I said, it's been around for 17 years. I didn't create it, so if you call something Steve Urkel, then yeah, you're gonna have an issue. But Urkel is just the last name, and it's spelled differently anyway. It's just that I guess I'm the only face synonymous with the name Urkel in the world, so you got to take advantage of that.
Yeah, it's like when I heard that story, I was like, man, that's that's one hell of a thing. Now, also, after years, it seems like you're coming back to the character of Steve Urkel in animation, where it's like, you did the Scooby Doo appearance, and then there was another project with HBO Max. I think it was called Did I Do That? An Urkel movie. How do you see the character evolving, in the world of animation?
I don't know. I'm just taking it project by project. Sam Register over at Warner Bros. Animation is like my only fan of the character legacy over there left. It's a pretty HBO oriented place over there these days. But Sam Register is the president of WB Animation, and he loves the character legacy. So when Sam calls me, man, I like to try to figure out what we can do together. And these are all Sam projects, from the Scooby Doo to the Christmas movie that's coming out this year.
Okay, so now also when it comes to voice acting as a whole, I believe your first big voice acting role was Sonic the Hedgehog.
And this guy's full of research. This guy's full of research. I love it.
So what was it like, doing Sonic back in the day? Did you see the new Sonic movies by any chance?
I haven't seen the Sonic movies. I won't pretend that I wasn't a little heartbroken. I didn't even get a chance to audition for it. I always like to clear that up for Sonic fans. When these properties move from studio to studio, the new producers, they don't feel any obligation to call anybody that was associated previously. But I heard it's great, and I love Jim Carrey, so I haven't seen it yet. But yeah, that was doing the voice of Sonic the Hedgehog was like my side hustle as a kid. I can remember driving to those recording sessions in my mama's Acura after work and being so annoyed at the time. And now it's been really a very iconic thing that's associated with me, kind of.
Well, the interesting thing about you with Sonic was I believe you did the role in two separate shows, where the first one was more of a comedy. The animation, wasn't the best, and some people kind of, weren't the biggest fans of that show. But then there was, another one which I believe only went one season, but it was actually really popular with fans, where it had sort of a better animation. What were your feelings on that?
Again, those are things, especially as a 16-year-old boy, 17-year-old boy, you don't control any of that, bro. I liked the darker version, though. I thought the darker version was cool. That was on ABC, so they got a shorter order. Both versions have lived. They both have their fan groups.
Okay, now, being like in the succession of like 16, 17 years old, when you were doing Family Matters, I believe there's almost, the term Urkelized or Fonzized, where, your characters sort of just start off as a guest, and then gradually you sort of, rose through the ranks of Family Matters and became, sort of the main guy in the series. Yeah. Did you feel like kind of, as it going from a kid to a teenager, like, you can call more shots on the show, or what was your feelings there?
I never got to any point where I was calling any shots, bro. Like, if it had been like that, they would have changed the name of the show. That was talked about at one point. I'd have been first billed. I was never first on the call sheet. We kept things. We tried to always keep things the way they were in the beginning, but just make me feel more, welcome with the family. Over time, obviously, the storylines, I definitely, dominated those. But we were a family growing up as kids. Me, Kelly, and Darius. That's Eddie and Laura. We grew up. That's really our childhood. You know what I'm saying? So when you talk about somebody's childhood, you get a little protective a little bit, because we had our bumps and bruises, and we were all growing through puberty at that time. Darius drove me on my first date because I couldn't drive. We have great, wholesome stories, man, about what it was just growing up in the 90s before all these cell phones dominated the world.
Yeah, and doing a lot of videos, I always talk about sort of child actors and so on. One of the biggest topics was Gary Coleman and some sort of sad stories that happened with that. Looking at your life, it actually seems, a child actor who went on for a pretty happy future. So
yeah, no, I mean Gary was a lot shorter than me, and he also had a terrible kidney ailment. And, you know, I think you always, when you talk about that, you have to talk about that within the context of family. Not everybody comes from a cohesive family unit. And I think that'll have a bigger effect on your overall development than anything you did in front of the camera, to be quite honest.
Yeah, so you think it was just that, you know, good family background, and that's why here today, well-adjusted adult?
Yeah, my dad's a dentist. I grew up, born and raised in Los Angeles, playing around UCLA, where he graduated, where I ultimately graduated. You know, I'm an Angelino kid. You know, you want to talk about the Lakers, you want to talk about the Dodgers. You know, I'm an Angelino kid.
Well, I've had 5 root canals this year, so I probably could have used your dad.
You could have. My dad's dope. My dad's dope.
Still, by the way, is he still practicing?
Yes, he is. He's gonna practice until he leaves this earth.
All right. So you know, going back to the movie Hustle with Adam Sandler. So, you know, now one industry question I have for you is, with looking at Netflix and, you know, doing projects with them, how does it differ from, you know, the old studio model where, you know, things come out, the box office, and so on?
That's crazy you just said that, because I just saw Top Gun last week, and man, it made me feel like a 12-year-old. I mean, just, you know, yelling at the screen, it was a pure adrenaline rush. And I really feel like it's going to help reintroduce what it is to go to the movie theater. You know, as a world, we've really been through something pretty traumatic with this pandemic thing, with quarantines and not being able to be around each other and wear a mask. And, you know, it's going to take some time to get people reacclimated with the idea of, hey, I want to take you on a date. Let's go to the movies. You know, guys and girls were able to get away with just come on over and we'll watch some Netflix.
Netflix and chill.
Exactly, Netflix and chill, right? So, you know, I'm a fan of both experiences, to be quite honest. I really am. There are some movies, though, that I do feel just the experience, just it belongs on a bigger screen. But then there are other movies where I was like, man, I'd much rather be watching this at the crib. And that's for each person to figure out, you know, individually which films resonate like that for them in their experiences. But working for Netflix, it doesn't feel any different than working for a big studio, to be quite honest, especially when you've got somebody of Adam's magnitude at the helm of the production. You know, it's the most, I mean, matter of fact, I think the scariest thing being on set was if one person, when we were in Philadelphia, one person tested positive, Netflix shut down the entire production, I think, for like 7 to 10 days. So you can imagine how that was really keeping people on edge, who had to test every single day just to make this film. And if one person out of a crew of, you know, well over 100 tested positive, then production was shut down. So they took it very seriously. Adam took it very seriously. And it was quite the experience being in the bubble, though, making this movie, because that's what we had to do. We had to create a bubble.
So, you know, making a movie during COVID, you know, what was it like, you know, the mask? How did it feel versus everything else?
Man, it was wild. It was wild, man. They were, you know, the tests back then were different. They didn't just politely, you know, swab you a little bit. They was way up here with the thing.
Was this also pre or post the vaccine?
This is pre-vaccine.
Oh, wow.
This is pre-vaccine. So I shot my portions in 2020, at the end of 2020, and then I went back in 2021 after they came back from Europe. And it was 2 completely different experiences. The first experience was extremely isolated. People in pods. You couldn't even recognize your crew on set because everybody was masked up and they weren't allowed to take their mask off at all. We were only allowed to take our mask off for individual rehearsals, and we had to put our mask back on. Then they say camera up, we take our mask back off. I mean, it was a very, very clumsy experience, but like I said, we're well-meaning people.
Now, you know, what is your feeling on actors who are not getting vaccinated at this point in time? I believe Ice Cube, you know, he was offered a role that, you know, was $4 million, and he was a vaccine requirement from Sony, didn't do it. And, you know, Ice Cube turned down, I want to say $4 to $6 million because of that. You know, Black Panther has been having some issues where a few cast members don't want to do it. What are your thoughts on that overall?
I mean, it's each to their own. You can't force people to take something medically. You just can't. Okay. You know, It's really that simple. Like,
I like the answer there.
Yeah, no, it's not even a cop-out answer. But, you know, for me, I'm going to trust the science. I don't really think there's a conspiracy around it, you know. And if you think there's a conspiracy around it, well, then go to a neighborhood that you like and get it there. but everybody's going to think differently. I think the boosters are kind of getting a little pushy. But I still, it comes back to, I think, to each their own. You can't force people to get something medically.
Yeah, on a personal feeling, I am vaccinated. Got it the first day it was available for my age group in New York. But, I feel like some of the people are getting a little high strung about it. It's like, there was one bit on Saturday Night Live recently where, they were talking about the vaccine. I think it was Kenan Thompson. It was like, I'm pro-vaccine, but did I have to stop talking to my best friend because he didn't want to get the booster shot? And it was just a very funny skit with that.
Yeah, and it's become a very polarizing topic. And if you don't approach the topic, it's with any sensitivity, with a high, degree of sensitivity, people almost use it as a reason to not like you, and or to disassociate themselves from you. I don't think it necessarily has to be this way. I even just taking it back to filming on the set. I remember the second time I went back, even for lunch, they had us in a giant warehouse, all spaced apart. It was like, imagine a classroom with desks all facing forward, except it's like hundreds of desks. And it's for lunch for the crew of a major movie. Like it was so surreal. They were serious. They had people like walking up and down the aisles, like, stay away from each other. And it was like, it really felt apocalyptic, man. But it between actually cut it special. What'd you say?
Were there any days it was shut down?
Not while I was there. But yeah, I'm sure there were some days they were shut down.
I mean, that's good to hear. Like, and now, what does it have to do with like the staff? Let's just say it's shut down. Is the staff paid? Compensated for that?
I'm not the line producer, so I don't know how that works out on the finances. I know just the entire inconvenience of COVID. And I did hear added to budgets up to a third of the budget, would increase because of COVID expenses.
Now, getting involved in this movie, what was the process? Was it traditional audition process, or Adam Sandler calling you up? How was that working out?
Adam and his team, they're very hands-on. That's the beauty of being around him. You're watching one man really make films under his auspice, his eye. And so it was a very personal thing. It was almost kind of like I worked with Clint Eastwood one time, and they have very similar styles. They've both been making movies for so long. They kind of issue the formal casting process, which really these days it just turned into self-taping.
Well, one of my first videos to ever really go viral was actually talking about sort of the business side of Adam Sandler's movies, where on Rotten Tomatoes, if you aggregate his score, it's about, I want to say, 31%.
It is?
Yeah, just not the best there. Just a comparison, M. Night Shyamalan, who gets a lot of hate, is like a 64%. So, but then you look at the numbers. His movies cost a third, half as much as a third as much as the normal movie that comes out in big release. But they also make 2-3 times as much money. So he's got a machine going.
You know more than me. What I know is that his process is organic. He handles everything from script revision to casting to editing, and it's literally just him and Bagel, his dog, walking around the kitchen area, in and out of the editing bay. And I respect that, man. I respect that so much.
Well, anytime I've done a video covering Adam Sandler, there's always thousands of comments of people just saying how much they love the guy. Where it's like, there's some people saying, I don't love the movies, but he seems like the nicest guy to work with.
It was funny though, because when I first went to Philly, I had to quarantine for 10 days at the Four Seasons, and they were at 25% capacity, and they have this great infinity pool on the 57th floor. Shout out to the Four Seasons, Philadelphia. And so that was pretty miserable, right? And I'm eating peanut butter and jelly sandwiches every day to make sure I'm safe before I can go into the bubble. I get a call from the producer, Barry. Love you, Barry. And he's like, hey, listen, would you mind if we moved you into one of the houses that we have that are closer to production? Because Netflix just really isn't comfortable with you being at the hotel and coming in and out of the bubble. And I'm like, well, I don't know what the point was of me staying here then for 10 days, but I'm comfortable with whatever you want to do. It's like, great. Well, I'll send a car for you. How soon could you leave? And I said, I don't know, maybe like tomorrow morning or something like that. I'm not doing anything. It's all right, great. So he says, okay, I'll send a car for you tomorrow morning and bring you into the bubble. And then I get a call like 10 minutes later, and it's Adam. He's like, hey, what's up, man? Okay. He's like, listen, I know no pressure at all, but we're playing basketball in like a couple of hours. Would you like to join us? And then it like clicks. Oh no, that call was, pack your shit, dog. We playing basketball in 2 hours, and we need to make sure that you're safe. So that's literally how my journey began in production. I ran upstairs, I packed my stuff, I said a hasty goodbye to the entire Four Seasons staff, and I moved into this giant house that had a private indoor basketball court, and we played ball amongst each other. We would play 3-on-3 for like the next 10 days. Amidst working, and that was our routine, and we didn't have any contact with anybody else.
So, who was the best basketball player there?
Let's start that talk. I think I was hired to guard this guy, Joe Vesey. Joseph Vesey is Peter Vesey's son, but more importantly, he's a brilliant stand-up comedian, and he was a writer and producer on Hustle. So the second I stepped on the court, I just kind of got the vibe. I think it's my job to check this dude to make sure that I slow down his three-point shot. So I don't know, somewhere between me and Joe Vesey. Adam's a great passer, and he's a great orchestrator of these type of interactions. So he plays hard. He plays hard, too. He does his thing.
Okay, so that's a pretty fun thing there. Now, another question I had, this kind of relates back to, the Urkel days. In the show Fuller House, which was also on Netflix, it was one of their actually, I think kind of the show that started the comeback of 90s sitcoms, bringing them back. At one of their season finales, they were like, I think it was Candace Cameron Bure. She was saying, who else can we bring back of our old friends? And then she goes, what was Urkel? What's Urkel up to? Did you get a phone call with that by any chance?
Man, I just think that's funny because the girls wouldn't do the show. The Olsen twins. The Olsen twins wouldn't do the show. And people put more pressure on me to go on and do the show than the Olsen twins. So I don't know if it's just because those girls are so rich that people don't want to bother them. But I just didn't find the crossover in the 90s made sense. That you did things like that. Hammer sold you Taco Bell in floating pants. Things didn't have to make sense, and you could have Urkel on every episode of A Night of TGIF, just hopping from Full House to Step by Step each episode. I think we did that one time. You wouldn't get away with that in this day and age because this day and age just demands a higher level of realism in the comedy. So that's the only reason why I didn't do the show. I love Candace. I love Candace forever. She's like literally a high school friend to me. But I always kind of give him a little shit for not working hard enough to get the Olsen twins back on their old show.
Hey, I think it was like one of those things that was kind of impossible. I mean, they've got, first off, they're worth like $500 million combined, I think, right now.
Hey, so if that's what it's just going to be about, where it's like, oh, they're too rich and they're too good for it, then I was like, and I told them, I said, listen, if you get the Olsen twins to come back and do it, then I'll go ahead and do it. And they never got them. So I'm like, all right, well, that's not my show.
Now it was okay with like the company and things like that. They had the clear for it, but it was just, your call not to do it.
Yeah, it was, I wasn't. Don't get the Olsen twins.
So I'll try to call them up. I've also gotten a lot of views about them too, by the way. That's about.
And it's no knock. I mean, it was like, but I'm like, I kind of don't like that mentality. It was like, well, they have too much money. Let's call up Jaleel White. What's he doing? I don't like that.
Well, the thing is, the Olsen twins, I have to give credit in sort of a sad way. They did kind of start me off on YouTube, where I began doing TikTok shorts. And there was one TikTok video I reposted to YouTube, which went, I think it has like, I want to say 7 million views now. And it was, it went viral in February, and that's kind of what, got us started here. And it was the Olsen twins attend Bob Saget's funeral. And I just did a video talking about how, with Bob Saget passing away, people didn't think they were actually going to go to the funeral because they didn't go to Fuller House. And I'm like, no, they aren't like that. There's a difference between going to a funeral and acting on a TV show.
Yeah, man. It's just, unfortunately, some people, they really can't separate the fact that, you have your life outside of the show and then you have your job on the show. The girls are moguls and they're successful people. And obviously they grew up with Bob. I grew up with Bob next door. So, giving somebody a guest appearance at below your rates, doing something that maybe just doesn't support what you feel at that particular time, has nothing to do with honoring a guy like Bob Saget, who was pretty much their father figure growing up on TV and in person.
What was Bob Saget like to work with, by the way?
Bob was great, dude. Bob was great. I had the pleasure of going into Dave Chappelle's bubble with Bob when they were doing Standing Up in the Cornfields in Yellow Springs, Ohio. And that's one of the real highlights for me of during pandemic. I remember actually, unfortunately, our bubble broke at the time, and we were going to have this really cool kickball game with Bob being the captain of one team and me being the captain of the other team, with jerseys and everything.
And the jerseys just say the 1990s?
It was going to be great. No, we had it, man. It was going to be great. And I remember the bubble broke. Somebody got COVID, and so everybody had to go home after just one night of comedy. But I just saw Bob's wife, too, the other day. Literally just ran into her the other day, man. It just kind of like put a freeze on the entire interactions. Just had to give her a hug. Yeah, man, we, growing up on that lot, man, on Warner Brothers lot, I have a lot of amazing organic childhood memories. I hope to be able to maybe do something where I share what those memories were. It was a very unique place to grow up as a kid. I think it'd be a one hell of a coming of age story, to be quite honest.
The Jaleel White show, that's be kind of a cool thing. All the guys getting biopic series now. Maybe that's the next one for you.
I don't know. You never know. I try to do things that feel organic to my heart. And that feel authentic. You know what I'm saying? So even talking about Bob, it's a very authentic thing. I would run into Bob at Jeff Franklin's house. Jeff Franklin probably did a better job of keeping members of TGIF coming together on Memorial Days and whatnot than anybody from my own show other than Darius and Kelly. So people would find that odd. Be like, really? You hung out with more of the Full House cast than your own cast? I'm like, yeah, year after year, because Jeff was nice enough to throw a great party at his house. And we would always attend. So Candace would be there, and Jodie Sweetin would be there, and Bob, and John Stamos. And so that's why it's like I'm much more even respectful of their reboot, because it wasn't just a money grab. They really did stick together as a unit all those years in between.
Yeah, I mean, I know, how does that relate, with the Family Matters cast? Like, you in touch with them today, right now, or?
I'm really just in touch with Darius and Kelly, who played Eddie and Laura, and may Michelle Thomas, rest in peace. She played Myra. Michelle will always have a special place in my heart. And I like to let fans know, if Michelle was alive, I probably would have done a multi-camera version of it, because I felt I feel the triangle of Myra, Laura, Steve, and Stefan. Well, that's not a triangle, but Myra, Laura, Steve, and Stefan. I felt like that the love affairs of that. Okay, maybe you could do something fun with that in multi-camera even today, to say where are they now. But without Michelle being here, it just didn't feel right.
Yeah, I think there was kind of a, Will Smith, had some similar commentary about that with, coming back to Fresh Prince. He said, without Uncle Phil, he didn't want to really do it again.
That part.
Now, one thing I have to bring up, because you said his name, it's, Dave Chappelle. Obviously, there's been a little controversy around him right now with, his comments on. Oh, you said his name when bringing up Bob Saget. I gotta ask. It's, Dave Chappelle, has some controversy about his transgender issues with his recent Netflix special. What are your thoughts on that, or
It kind of feels like a witch hunt to me. I'm gonna stand by Dave. I know his heart. I know his family. I've attended so many of his events. I look at the crowd. It's an incredibly diverse crowd. It's crazy diverse. There's a lot of LGBTQ community people represented there, not forcibly at all. Jokes are jokes, I don't want to criticize how anybody is made to feel about a joke, but I will say this: as an African American in this country, when I go see a movie like South Park, and They have Operation Hide Behind the Darkies. You know, I'm not I'm going on Rotten Tomatoes or going online saying, hey, I don't like this way it makes me feel as a black person. I understood the context of the joke, and it was pretty much everybody was going to get it in a movie like South Park. And that's what made the movie fun for everybody. So if you couldn't go into a film like that and laugh at yourself, I want to finish on this one. You couldn't go into a movie like that and laugh at yourself, then maybe that's just something you shouldn't have been going to see. And everybody has the right to change a channel or switch a streamer or look at something else. I love Quentin Tarantino. I think he's one of the best filmmakers of all time. He's the guy that inspired me to even go to film school at UCLA. I was so obsessed with the Pulp Fiction script. I think that guy says the N-word in Django over 200 times. Martin Scorsese uses the N-word over hundreds of times in all of their great films. I didn't use their art to judge them as filmmakers. So I would hope that people ultimately would extend that courtesy to Dave. I think he's truly one of the top 3 greatest stand-up comedians of all time. But he's also a family man, and anybody's allowed to feel defensive when they feel that you're not depicting them accurately. And sometimes that movement that's taking place for equality for all can start to turn people into martyrs. And it's not cool. Even the Me Too movement, we're all kind of seeing with the Johnny Depp thing and Amber Heard. And now it's kind of coming to light. Hey, there's a side of Amber you guys weren't so familiar with. You know, it desensitizes people who are going through real Me Too issues for people like that to, you know, attach themselves to movements and just kind of like, I don't know, I feel like cast somebody in a hateful light. There's nothing hateful about Dave Chappelle at all.
Yeah, you know, doing a lot of videos, you know, there were some people telling me, hey, you're the guy on TikTok defending Dave Chappelle. And I'm like, well, yeah, I think that is, you know, he was defending J.K. Rowling, who I think is kind of getting a bad rap. Johnny Depp, I've been, you know, I think Amber Heard, some people on the internet are going too harsh on her. I don't wish her any harm. You know, I hope.
Yeah, no, I'm not encouraging anybody troll her at all, whatnot. But I don't feel that the Me Too claims there quite frankly stack up to legitimate Me Too claims that have gone on for decades in this business.
Yeah, I mean, for me, it's like with Depp, it's like, you know, it's not that I want to see Amber Heard's career ruined. I just want to see Johnny Depp working again. That's what I like.
That part. Hey, man, you just said what I wanted to say, even better and shorter.
No, yeah, there we go. I mean, so, you know, just kind of like, you know, kind of closing this up a bit more. I mean, you know, do you feel, though, Hollywood has become a little too sensitive where it feels like there's people. Okay, that says it all right there.
It's rough. You know, it's rough because I just feel like as a black person and as a black performer, especially, you know, I've put my pride aside for a good joke or a good scene in so many instances in my own life. You know, I look at a performance like Robert Downey Jr. in Tropic Thunder, and that performance is hysterical. And if you did that today, you know, does he need to be canceled? And I'm like, man, listen, I want no parts of that. If you feel so insecure that you can look at a performance like that, or look at the number of times the N-word is used in a slave movie like Django and say, oh, Quentin Tarantino's racist, or in any direction, I'm like, stop it. That's a hurt person trying to hurt other people. And that's what I hope that ultimately gets addressed one day. I want to see our art protected.
Now, you know, speaking of just, you know, not the N-word, but I think you might get a laugh at this, actually. Samuel L. Jackson, because you mentioned Martin Scorsese, Samuel L. Jackson was actually complaining one time because, you know, in Wolf of Wall Street, Leonardo DiCaprio and Jonah Hill took the records for most F words in a movie. And Samuel L. Jackson was saying, I want to recount. He was saying, and then he was saying, I want to do a movie now. He said, I want to do a movie now just to actually break that record. Because that belonged to him for about 12 years.
Hey, if I want to see Sam break that record. I'll be right there with my popcorn.
Get the F word out there. All right, so kind of just closing up because I know you're on limited time today. You know, final thoughts on just the movie Hustle, and you know, what was it like filming there? Why should people see the movie?
Man, listen, I couldn't be prouder to be in a film like Hustle. Really, very rarely do you get a chance to, you know, help promote a film that you feel it's a timeless movie. I felt the same way about Dreamgirl. When I was in Dreamgirls, I was like, somebody's going to win an Oscar here. I just felt it on the first 2 days on the set. I was like, somebody gonna win an Oscar here. I thought it was gonna be Eddie Murphy. It ended up being Jennifer Hudson. And when it comes to Hustle, I feel like it's one of the top 3 basketball movies ever made. I love Hoosiers. Stick another one in that top 3. You know, that's going to be debatable for a lot of people, but I think absolutely 2 or 3, it's Hustle. They got a great performance out of the lead. That's not an easy thing to find and to pull out of a 6'10" guy. The cameos are organic. They take the story around the world. They get on a plane and they take the story around the world. And I love the game. So I'm excited about the NBA Finals. We got the Warriors and the Celtics coming up. And I get a chance to be a part of a movie that's being released to celebrate basketball at this time. So thank you, Adam, for having me in the flick. And, check out Hustle.
I think with that, so we got to close there. And if there was any final words, where do you kind of, with this kind of lifelong career in entertainment, just, where do you see it going as you're now a parent and so on?
Oh, man, it's life takes on so many twists and turns, man. It really, really does. I just ask people, man, to be kind to each other out there, really. And if you feel like something is hurting you, look in the mirror first before you project any of that pain on other people. Because otherwise, we're going to tear down a really, really cool art in motion pictures and stand-up comedy, to be quite honest.
So the big takeaways here are, watch the movie Hustle.
Yes.
Try Purple Urkel.
Yes.
Dave Chappelle's a good guy.
Yes.
And
Quentin Tarantino is too.
Oh, what? Who?
Quentin Tarantino is too.
Quentin Tarantino is too. And I'm trying to think of what else we got here from this. We need to get the Olsen twins in a reunion, and then Urkel gets to come to that.
Yes, absolutely. Yes, I would definitely love to do a talk show with the Olsen girls. I got a lot of questions I'd like to ask them. I was working right there alongside them. So yes, use this to get me and the Olsens together in the same room.
So here's the thing. I feel like I'm going to send this interview out to some press sources, and in a week we'll have Hollywood reporters saying Jaleel White says he'll come back as Steve Urkel if the Olsens come back as. The thing is, I feel like the Olsen twins might be tempted. Maybe they were because
Hey, listen, I always want to be very clear with my words. I have profound respect for those girls and how they've navigated their lives. So I respect their privacy. I don't think you're going to get them. But if you do, I'm willing to do something crazy right alongside.
You'll get after about 25 years, you'll get the glasses back on, the suspenders.
I'm just saying, go work on them first. Go work on them first.
I gotta go get some some billionaires working on it, and then we'll get Urkel.
There you go.
All right, anyway, with that said, Jaleel, it was great having you on. Great talking. And hold on, we're gonna stop the recording now.
Charles, you've been super gracious. Super gracious.
That.